Are you one of many guitar players who have trouble using the third and fourth finger together? So when you try to play a phrase like this, it sounds more like this. If that's the case, then you're in luck. I'm going to share a really effective exercise that you can use for 5 minutes per day as a warm-up. And if you do that consistently, you will see a huge amount of progress in just a couple of weeks. But you need to practice it in the way that I'm going to show you for it to work. The exercise just goes like this. We're basically going to take any 4 frets, and we're going to use this fingering, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the numbers here correlates to the fingers, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And the sequence we're going to play is 1, 4, 3, 4. Then we're going to exchange the index finger for the second finger and go 2, 4, 3, 4. So what this gives us is the 2 ways that this can show up in any type of phrase, meaning using the 3 and 4 together like this, and it can either start with the index finger or the second finger. So if we put it together, it sounds like this. Just strict alternate picking, starting with a downstroke. Now this won't win any awards for being super melodic, but the trade-off here is that it's so systematic in the way that we're gonna basically make sure that you can go from the index finger to 4, 3, 4, and then the second finger to 4, 3, 4. And that's basically the only 2 ways this will show up in a solo or a classical piece. So you're covering a lot of ground here with just this short phrase. And another thing that you want to do as well, and I would do this every other day, would be to start on an upstroke instead. So you do the same exercise, but you start on an upstroke. But the exercise itself then, I want you to use a timer, put it on 5 minutes, and I want you to use a very slow tempo here. And this is super important because you want to make sure that your hands are super locked in. So if this represents the synchronization, what a lot of people tend to do is that they, instead of practicing here where the hands are locked in, they push the tempo so it starts getting a bit skewed like this. And as you can see, if you keep repeating this, your brain won't know the difference. It will just accept whatever you feed it in terms of practice. That's why we practice things repetitively, to lock it into our muscle memory. So if you sit like this, doing it perfectly, you will have a much better and stronger signal to your fingers, to what you want them to do. And if you sit like this, you're gonna be kind of on the verge of not being able to play what you want to play. So don't make that mistake. I see that so often in people that come to me for help, where they tend to put in all the practice, but they don't really improve because they tend to be right at the cusp of making mistakes. And that's not really their fault, it's just a lot of dodgy information out there, in my opinion. So if my approach is instead to make sure that whenever I do anything repetitively, I make sure that I'm in this perfect zone, and then when I'm done with that practice, as a treat, I can sit there and try to speed up licks, and then you can use all the metronome techniques and speed bursts and stuff like that. And that gives you a more balanced technique workout than just sitting there all the time redlining it and trying to get it right. Because again, a big part of this is training our brain to send the correct signals, and if you feed the brain crap, well, that's what's going to come out later. So don't do that. Anyway, back to the exercise. Put a timer on 5 minutes, and now you can use this pattern and you can move it around wherever you like. So you can make it less boring that way, right? The only thing you need to keep track of here is that everything is absolutely locked in and synced, and that you're relaxed and it feels good. But that should be taken care of you actually choosing a tempo where you can do this stuff. So try not to look at the tempo and be like, oh crap, I'm only at X BPM. No one cares. This is just for practice, right? So let's say I would put a metronome, you're not going to hear it here, but if I put a metronome at like 60 BPMs, so that would be around that tempo, and then if I play 2 notes per beat, it would be like this. So as you can hear, my hands are perfectly in sync, and if I have my timer going, you just play it, once or twice in each position. see here, just moving around. Now I did all the strings, right? So that's, I think that's fairly important, but you can move it around in any way that you like, just to keep the interest up. Because again, this stuff is not musical and it's not, you know, fun to listen to, but the results and the technique that you build, that's the fun part. So I rather spend some time doing, you know, mechanical and unmusical exercises so I can build the control that I can apply to my own music and my own improvisation. So that's the trade-off, and I think that's worth it. But again, I would suggest 5 minutes. This is perfect as a warm-up as well. And as I mentioned before, do try doing this with an upstroke as well. I wouldn't do that in the same day. I would alternate days instead. And if you want, you can just get started with this and maybe do a week with just the downstrokes before you start introducing the upstroke. And that's a really, really good way to warm up. And like I said, if you do this for a couple of weeks and you actually do it consistently, you will see a big difference in your ability to use the third and fourth finger together and actually the whole synchronization part of your playing, which is super important, obviously. Here's a variation you can use that's a bit more melodic. You can either add this to your practice routine, another 5 minutes, or do this one instead. But I do think the first one is better from a mechanical standpoint, but this one is also good. So pick any 4 frets again. And I'm gonna do it here from the G string. And I'm gonna go 1, 4, 3, 4. But now I'm gonna take the first note here and go down the harmonic minor scale. So it's gonna be, right? So you can see here that we're always going to do 4, 3, 4, and then change the bottom note. So we go, and then I use my second finger here. And again, I'm just moving this chromatically. And if it's not obvious, make sure you stick to the principles I outlined in the beginning of the video. All right, if you like this kind of stuff and you want personal help from me with whatever problem you might have with your guitar playing, you can sign up for my guitar personal training program. You have more info down in the description. When you sign up, we'll start with a 15-minute Skype interview if you want. Otherwise, you can just send me a video as well. And then I'm gonna look at that video and take the information from the interview and make your first practice routine. And you get access to all my courses. We're gonna use a lot of that stuff in the teaching. And on top of all that, and I think probably the most important part here, is that we're gonna be in contact over WhatsApp. So whenever you have a question, anytime, I will be there to help you out as soon as possible. And we can also send videos via WhatsApp, and it's a really great teaching tool I've found. So if you're interested in that, you can just look at the description below, and the first week is absolutely free, so you're not signing up to something that you don't feel is gonna work for you. So I hope to see you in there. If you have trouble finding a picking motion that works for you, I highly suggest that you check out this video.